Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast, part of the Bet Rivers Network. And today we'll hit the mailbag. Go check out and get some emails from you. We haven't done that often. We try to do it as a couple of times, at least a couple of times a month. So, especially during this very busy time of year, we don't get to it too much. So, we decided today's a good day to dive in and see what's on your mind. So, away we go. And one thing is, I don't look at them in advance. Mon sends them to me right before the show. I don't like to because I like to react to them instinctively and immediately. Here we go. And remember, Mike Francis a podcast at gmail.com. Also remember the Mike Francis newsletter. Sign up for the free newsletter. Go to MikeFrancisApodcast.com and sign up. All you gotta do is give me your email and you're in. And send your emails to Mike Francis Podcast at gmail.com. All right. Gabe starts us off today. Do you think it was a mistake for the Giants to elevate the OC to interim head coach? No, it's extremely logical um, on a variety of levels. First of all, he had been named assistant head coach because he had been miffed when he was not allowed to go. Seattle tried to hire him on a lateral move. The Giants did not have to give permission, they refused permission. He wasn't very happy about that because a lot of guys wanted to get off Daboll's staff, which is one of the real knocks on Daboll was that he was having a lot of trouble with his coaches, starting with Wink and working right through. But he's had a lot of guys leave him. And Kafka, who's been a candidate for head coaching jobs, wanted to go to Seattle. It didn't happen. Stayed. They made him assistant head coach, which is cosmetic, but still. This is his audition. Now, the one thing he can't do is he can't rush Dart back. As I said, not only does Dart, to me, have to clear concussion protocol, I want him kicking down the barn for a week before I give him the job back. The one thing I would do, though, and I said this right after the game Sunday, and a lot of people, I'm not saying they're copying me, they're saying the same thing because it's logical. Jameis Winston should be the quarterback this week and next week against the Packers and the Lions. He'll do some good things, he'll do some bad things, but he'll bring energy and he'll want to play, which is something that Russell Wilson doesn't. I would not play Dart for a minimum of 2 weeks. After that, we'll take it game by game. Now, as far as Kafka, listen, this is his time. This is his chance to audition. This is his big moment. Hey, you have to understand, these guys live to become head coaches when they're doing the grunt work, when they're doing what we used to call cut-ups. Now it's a little different digitally, but when they're doing the position by position stuff, when they're doing the video stuff, when they're doing that kind of preparation stuff, okay, they're dreaming one day of moving up the ladder and finally getting a chance to be a head coach for fame and fortune and everything else. That's what their dream is. Hey, it's just like a young broadcaster. You get a job working Saturdays, or you get a job working overnights. You get a job working on a weekend for 2 hours. You dream of the day you got a daily job. You dream of the day you can get the afternoon drive. You dream of the day you can be number one. It's human nature. So don't hold that against them. That's what you expect out of any of these coaches. Now, I would think he's going to call the plays. Remember, John Mara made Daboll give up the play calling to Kafka. He had taken it back on a couple of occasions, which is what Kevin was mad about. I would think he's calling the plays for sure. Now, Daryl, please explain to me what the Giants GM has done to keep his job and hire another coach. Now, a very fair question. Weren't they linked together? Shouldn't they have gone out together? He hasn't distinguished himself. All fair, all completely fair critiques. Very fair. Why is he staying? This is a little more complicated than normal. I've been trying to tell you this in a very roundabout way without being in any way intrusive to John Mara's situation because it's just not right. He's a public person, but he should be able to go through his illness in private. Now, the Giants, one of the reasons that the GM is here, I'm not saying it's the only reason. I don't know what his status will be when they review him, and he will be reviewed at the end of the year. But right now, the Giants were not in a position with John Mara, who is the football head of this organization in every way. He is not up to handling his daily chores. He's cutting back and cutting back as he fights his illness. They did not want to strip their entire football hierarchy. And when John can't step in and fill a void, he's not able to do that right now. So it made plenty of sense. Do not go overboard. I know people already have, but don't go overboard about the GM being here. It doesn't mean he's going to be here next year. And as I've told you on a couple of occasions, there could be a lot of change in the Giants. So just let it unfold. And remember, treat this with compassion and dignity because you're talking about a man's medical situation and he's fighting a major fight here. So let him do it. Understand the big picture. It's more important than football. Should the Bills consider bringing Daboll back to work with Josh Allen? That would only happen if Brady got a head coaching job, which a lot of people think he will. Can I see Daboll as an offensive coordinator somewhere next year? Absolutely. I don't see him as a lot of people are painting him as a head coach. I think Braum should be the next head coach at Penn State. If Penn State's smart, that's who they're going to hire. He is the guy they should hire. I would have gone and got Signetti also. I know you keep hearing college coaches, people speculating. Signetti is not going to leave Indiana. He's a college coach. He's already in his late 60s. He's 65, 66. He's not going to leave. They just gave him a king's ransom to stay at Indiana because Penn State was sniffing around. They gave him a ton of money, 90-something million dollars. So he's not going anywhere. Now, I keep hearing Lane Kiffin because of the relationship with Jackson Dart. Ole Miss has already ponied up for Lane Kiffin. They've made it very clear they want him to stay. They've made it very clear that he's got a long-term, even a lifetime contract. I don't think Lane Kiffin's going anywhere. I really don't. And I think Lane Kiffin's a college coach anyway. Players who place a qualifying same-game parlay of at least $10 on eligible NFL or NCAA football games will receive one standard entry into the weekly Bet River Squares game. Winning standard squares will be rewarded a prize of $20 per bonus bet. So see the app and website for more details. Okay, check that out. The squares are always fun. Let's continue along and see what's on your mind. Joe, has Glenn done a better job these last few weeks, or it's just that any team can win a game or two? Right now, to me, it's any team can win a game or two. The Cincinnati game was about the Cincinnati's complete defensive collapse. Last week, listen, they won 2 in a row. I don't want to take anything away from it. They won last week with their quarterback having 54 yards of offense passing. They won last week with the lowest yardage total while not forcing a turnover and winning since 1966. They got they got a big hole touchdown, and they got 2 huge punt returns for touchdown. That's how they won against a bad team. They beat a team that hasn't won on the road in eons, and they beat a team that's got a bunch of rookies on offense and a good defense that gets frustrated. And they let up a huge punt return and a huge kick return last week. That's how they won. They're going to have to be, well, let me put it this way. Beat the Pats this week, and I will be enormously impressed and will be throwing bouquets their way, okay? Am I impressed yet? I am not. Now, let me say this about Glenn. Glenn is dying to play this tough guy deal. He did it again today when he went after a reporter who had a relatively minor scoop that Wilson was going to be out 3 to 4 weeks. I don't know if he's going to be out 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 5 weeks, or 6 weeks. I have no idea. Most people don't on that kind of injury. Now, it doesn't matter. That annoyed him. Okay, so now he's not going to talk about injuries anymore. So he chastised the media. He likes to chastise the media. Okay? Remember, this guy watched Dan Campbell, who's sometimes tough guy, sometimes good guy. This guy's watched Sean Payton, who is always wise guy. This guy's watched Bill Parcells, who is always tough guy, always wise guy, and twirled the media around his finger in every press conference. But remember, what he had was the rings to show everybody. That's the game. If you have the hardware, if you've talked the talk, Peyton has, Parcells clearly has, Campbell is in the midst of doing it, then you can act that way. When you don't win any games, be careful acting that way because number one, you look like a fool. And number two, it won't last long. Now, they've won 2 games after losing 7 in a row. Were there extenuating circumstances in both games? Yes. Do I need to see more? Yes. Has this pumped up Glenn? Immeasurably. He's dying to play the tough guy act. He's dying to play it. He's got to win more games before he can play it because otherwise, it doesn't play. Otherwise, you can see right through it. It's as phony as the day is long. So he's dying to play it, though. I mean, you can see it. He wants to play it in the worst way. Now, David, did the Knicks make a mistake by firing Thibs? Well, I think most Knicks fans will answer that by where the Knicks wind up in the postseason. Now, it's a completely different style of play. This team is going to be better offensively. This team is going to play more people. This team is going to get better productivity out of the wings. Bridges and Anunoby are going to be better in this offense. You've seen that already. The main problem of last year when it comes to the postseason is still the main problem of this year when you come to the postseason. And the postseason, whether the Knicks win 48 games, 52 games, or 56 games, makes no difference. What's going to matter is how far they go into the playoffs. We all know that. Now, are they capable of going deep in the East this year? Yes. Are they capable of going all the way in the East? Possibly. I wouldn't call them favorites, but possibly. Now, there are 2 distinct problems that Thibs couldn't solve and Brown has to prove he can solve, and I don't see any way he can solve them. Number 1 is keeping Robinson healthy. He's incredibly important to the team. Keeping him healthy is an imperative. Number 2, the Knicks can't solve this issue. It is the issue that will not be solved with this personnel. They cannot figure out how not to get killed defensively when they have Brunson and Towns on the floor at the same time. It haunted Thibs. It's going to haunt Brown. It is a problem that does not have a solution. If you try to separate them as much as you can minute-wise. They both can be your lead scorer when they're on the floor. Okay? When one's on the floor and the other one's not on the floor, they're the lead scorer. Now, last 5 minutes, Brunson's going to be the lead scorer no matter who's on the floor. But they are a defensive disaster when they are on the floor together. And I don't see any way anybody can solve that. And that is going to haunt them and haunt them and haunt them. Bob, would Alonso make sense for the Yanks and Bellinger for the Mets? Well, Bellinger would make sense for just about any team. His versatility, he proved he can play anywhere, proven he can play in any city. Okay. He had, I thought, a terrific year for the Yankees this year. I thought he was a wonderful player for the Yankees this year. And I think with that being the case and the money being somewhat relative, I figure he's going back to the Yankees. I can't see how he would be happier anywhere else. I mean, it was a perfect fit for him. He can play multiple positions. He plays them all well. He gives them versatility. They need that right now. And he's a good situation hitter. He's good two-strike hitter. He's a classy ball player. I was very impressed with him last year. As far as Alonso, I don't think the Mets are going to make a big move for Alonso. I doubt the Yankees are the ones who sign Alonso. Now, could they use him? Absolutely. Hey, any team could use what Alonso brings to the table. What these teams don't want to do is they don't want to get caught on the backside when Alonso starts to fail. That's what they all fear is signing him to long-term contract and getting the backside. Right-handed, slugging first basemen who are limited defensively are guys who get old very quickly. Alonso's not young. That's the great fear. If you could sign him to a 1 or 2 year deal, you jump on him. You don't want to sign him to a long-term deal. Nobody does. And that's going to be interesting to see what team is out there to give him the money. There's a lot of interesting movement at the top of free agency this year because a lot of guys fit on a lot of teams. The question is how much money teams want to spend as they put their fit together. Now, I've seen stuff about Schwarber to the Yankees. Come on now. Hey, are you going to tell me now? Listen, I begged. If you listen to me, I begged Cashman for years when he was not doing well to bring Schwarber to the Yankees. I begged it. I thought he would be an absolute maniac in Yankee Stadium, and he would have been. But you cannot bring a man who is now a full-blown DH to a team that already has 3 DHs. And that's not counting when Judge needs a day off. The Yankees have too many DHs as it is. You're going to bring another one in? I mean, come on. Whoever thinks that is not paying attention to what the Yankees need to get better at. That is not the case. You got a lot of guys you got to send out the door before you bring in Schwarber to be the DH. Where I like Schwarber in Yankee Stadium in a heartbeat, but only under the right situation, and they don't have the right situation. Should the Mets be all in for Skubal? Listen, there is only a handful of teams that can afford them. And the Mets have the pitching and the prospects to placate the Tigers and to pay Skubal. Do the Mets need a Skubal? Yes, they do. They need a front end of the rotation guy to win championships. And that, remember, is what Cohn was here to do. And it's already taken him probably a lot longer than he thought it was going to take because these guys come off Wall Street and think, oh, this is a snap. This is baseball. This is fun and games. I'll take over this in 2 seconds. Well, ask Tepper how he's doing in the NFL and ask Cohen how he's doing in Major League Baseball. Not as well as he thought. Not as easy as he thinks. Now, Skubal makes sense. The Mets need a bona fide ace. You don't need him for the regular season. You need a guy who can step up and take the ball and deliver you in the postseason. Is he going to do it every year in the postseason? Maybe not. But the Yankees had pitchers who pitched great all year who got into a series and pitched badly. It happens. We saw Snell pitch great. We saw Snell pitch terribly. We saw Yamamoto put on one of the great pitching performances of all time. And that's why the Dodgers won. Without that, the Dodgers don't have a championship. That's how good he was. Now, here's the one thing with Skubal going forward. And this is, to me, imperative. He has got to make one adjustment. So I know you're saying, wait a second, this guy is as good a pitcher as a baseball. Why are you making him adjustments? Because he strikes out too many batters. You're going to go, huh? Mariano learned this. It took him from being sensational to otherworldly. When you can get a guy out with one pitch, you stay in the game. In the game that Skubal pitched, the deciding game, he was Unbelievable. But he pitched 6 innings. 6 innings. Why? Because he was striking at everybody and running up his pitch count. Now, I thought he should have gone at least another inning anyway, but the bottom line is, if you can learn to be economical and not try to strike everybody out, it is for them, a small adjustment, but an adjustment that can be tremendously important because it can get you into the 8th inning of the game. It can get you another 5 or 6 outs. Strikeouts cost you pitches, foul balls, pitches that just miss, 6, 7, 8 pitch counts. 1 and 2 pitch counts get you to the 8th inning. And the idea in those games, if you're the ace, is to get your team to the 8th inning or preferably the whole game, but that's asking too much. We don't see that anymore. But even to the 8th through 7 innings, through 8 innings, deep into the game where you can count the outs and you have the guys who can touch those outs and get them for you out of the bullpen. It makes a huge difference. And I think at this juncture, especially if he comes to a big team, it's important that he makes that adjustment. But I think I would be surprised if Skubal isn't a Met. I think everything lines up completely that says he's a Met. Um, I got a couple other questions, both really on the Giants again. I know the Giants situation is perplexing. Daboll had to go. The Giants did not want to get rid of Daboll before the season was over. They did not. But things snowballed. He had incidents. He's had issues with coaches. He went after the doctors. The Giants got fined $200. He got fined $100,000. The Giants were very embarrassed about that. The Giants also watched as he led a team that gave away 3 games where they were 93, 96, and 99% winners if the games play out. Losing 3 of those in the same 6 or 7 game span or in the same season would be astronomical in the odds that you didn't win any of those. There was such a malaise on this team. There was such a negativity that it was filtering. There was so many other issues that the Giants felt that they had to do something in a very big way. They had to do something. And I think without question, they did what had to be done. Again, look at the general manager in terms of what is going on inside the organization, but also at least give a nod to what is going on with John Mara and his fight. Okay, it is impacting how they run the organization right now. You have to take that into account. If you don't, you're not paying attention. That's all there is to it. So let this unfold. I think you watch now as Dart gets a couple of weeks to heal. You see if there's any tangible change in the team. Remember, the next 2 games are very, very tough. They're playing the Packers off a terrible loss last night, and they're playing the Lions in Detroit. After that, yes, they play the Pats, but hey, on the right day, they could at least compete with the Pats. And then comes Washington, Minnesota, the Raiders, Cowboys, winnable games. Dart should be back for those last 4. I would prefer they don't rush him the next 3 weeks. Maybe he plays in 2 weeks. If he plays this week, they should all be arrested. This kid has been in the protocol 3 times in the last 6 weeks, 4 times counting the preseason, and he had a full-blown concussion. If he sees the field this week, there should be a criminal investigation. That should not happen. He should be ruled out tomorrow. That's all there is to it. And they should name Jameis Winston the starting quarterback, and then go about their business. I understand what has gone on here since Coughlin left. And that was a very, very tough thing, especially for John Mara, because you have to understand, Wellington Mara, who John took over for in 2005 as the football head of the franchise. Wellington Mara's last act with the Giants was to hire Tom Coughlin. Now remember, Ernie Accorsi didn't want to hire Tom Coughlin. And basically, as Ernie was trying to move anybody but Tom Coughlin into the job, Wellington Mara was out having lunch celebrating with Tom Coughlin. All that led to was 2 Super Bowl wins. And Tom Coughlin, all you got to do is look at the day he left and see how bitter he was, because he felt the Giants owed him more. He won 2 Super Bowls for them, and they didn't trust him. And they have paid an incredible price because of that. And they have not in any way been able to find anyone even in his league. And his league is high because he's, in my mind, a Hall of Fame coach. And a very underrated coach. And a very good man, as a matter of fact. Getting a guy like him turned out to be a blessing for them in a lot of ways. And then he was gone. And since then, they've done a terrible job. Plus, twice they kept the general manager, and it came back to absolutely bite them. That's why Giant fans who know their history are so upset about what went on here the last couple of days. It doesn't mean he's back. I'm not saying he is or he isn't. I don't know how the cards are going to be played out over the next couple of months. We'll see. As long as he's here, he's still here. As long as he's got the office, he's still got the office. That's how it works. And he's going to try and do everything he can to keep it. But it doesn't mean he keeps it. It's not an automatic fait accompli that he's here next year. All he's going to do is a lot of the legwork before the Giants finish the season and then decide who they want to interview for the head coaching job. And then they'll decide what they want to do as far as the front office goes. There's a lot of work to be done here in a lot of ways. And there could be a lot of changes. Finding coaches has become a harder practice, not an easier practice in the NFL. First of all, college coaches get paid incredible amounts of money that keeps talent. Hey, a lot of guys like going to college. They have a little kingdom. They get a couple of months off. They get paid a ton. And when they finally go out the door, they get, $40 million in parting gifts. It's a great job. You can get it. Plus, as coaches have relayed to me over and over again, it has become so hard to put a staff together. And that is something that the average fan does not pay attention to nearly enough. The head coach has got to have a working staff that he believes in and trusts. As Parcells used to preach, and one of the first things he ever taught me was, you don't have time to coach the coaches. If you have to coach your coaches, if you can't let them go out and teach their position players how to play, and they don't know what you want and how you want it taught, and they have to be basically you have to spend time working with them to go out and do their job, you're dead. You don't have time to coach the coaches. He had two very steadfast, well, really three that I always harken back to. One, you don't have time to coach the coaches. Two, life's too short to coach jerks. And three, dumb players lose games. Those were written in stone for him. And that hasn't changed. But what's changed is go back and look at his Giant staff. Go back and look at his Jet staff. Look how much talent was on his Jet staff. Now look at his staff. The average fan doesn't know three guys on the staff. And even sometimes they don't even know anybody on the staff. Putting a staff together. I know coaches who have not come back in this league who have told me, I can't put a staff together. I wouldn't come back without the staff. It's that important. And it's become such a difficult process. And I'm sure a guy like a Mike McCarthy this year has spent his entire off year, other than maybe getting in a couple of relaxing weekends. He has spent his whole year. If you asked him right now, Mike, outline your staff for me next year, he'd say, here, here, here. I guarantee he fills in almost every blank. Maybe there's one or two spots where he's looking for a guy. I guarantee he's got both coordinators picked. I guarantee he's got all his key people picked. He's got a special teams guy picked. He's got the whole thing done. Now, that gives a guy like him a big leg up. Big leg up. Gruden's more of a rebel. He might find it a little harder to get a staff. A guy like McCarthy, who the coaches know they're going to get to coach, they're going to get treated like gentlemen, they're going to be able to work, and they're going to get paid. Now, remember, a lot of assistant coaches don't like to come to New York. That's another big issue. Very big issue. Has been for the Jets, has been for the Giants, because here's what happens. The wives of the assistant coaches Google best school districts in the state of New Jersey. They pick out the 5 towns that, all right, here's the 5 towns I want to live in. And they look and they see that's 600 grand more than the house I'm living in right now. That's 500 grand more than the house I'm living in now. That's 800 grand more than the house I'm living in now. Give me a break. How am I going to live there? I know that they have at times given the coaching staffs extra money to get housing, just to get them to come, because the metropolitan area is so expensive. They have the same problem in other parts of California. They have the same problems here. I mean, up in Foxborough, 5 minutes from the stadium, they had beautiful houses that cost nothing. And then we all hear they're grumbling like crazy. Oh, I get a house. I gotta drive 80 miles every day. I know coaches who were driving 90 miles round trip when the Jets were at Hofstra, because that's where the school district their wives wanted. 90 miles. Those are factors fans never think about. That all goes into putting a staff together in New York. And that's why it is a difficult, difficult thing to do. Just keep all this in mind as you watch and listen to this whole thing unfold in the next days and weeks. We'll see you later.